Around 2200 BC. When the earth cracks, empires don't listen. Yet the poor hear it first, closest to dust. After 2334 BC, Akkad opens roads that carry wealth farther than any throne before it, under fluttering cloth banners still. But every new road is also a new cord, tightened around ordinary throats, drawn by quotas and watchful escorts nearby. Power isn't only spears. It's lines in clay that turn lives into numbers, stacked high beside oil lamps, nightly too. They watch gold pass by, while their bowls stay empty, and dust settles on their hands at dusk, again, quietly. An empire runs on the breath of those who were never asked. Building, measuring, recording, repeating, until bones ache daily. Then the water pulls back, not loudly, just with a long silence that clings to canals and mudbanks at dawn. As hunger grows, ideas grow too, especially the idea of freedom, whispered behind walls under listening ears each tight night. Even stone wears down. And when stone weakens, so does loyalty. Hairline cracks filling with sand and wind outside doors. Around 2200 BC, the empire fears enemies at its borders, not realizing the first enemy is the sky above all. Around 2250 BC, on the surface, abundance. Beneath it, an equation nobody survives, priced by scales and hunger alone here. Tax is no longer negotiation. It is the heartbeat of a machine, steady, cold, and indifferent to empty fields outside. While the empire counts granaries, the people count bites, stirring thin porridge slowly and watching children wait in silence nearby. Wealth moves faster, while human strength is held back in dust, under shouted orders and sun-baked walls all day long. Every seal is a door closing, and a fate being locked, pressed into wet clay that hardens by firelight inside. Some write the rules, others carry the weight of them, shuffling in lines with dry lips and lowered eyes quietly. Water was once the land's promise. Now it is only memory. A smear of mud that breaks like ash here. When the sky changes, temples stop comforting and start witnessing. Offerings laid down to meet only wind and heat outside. The empire keeps moving, but the ground beneath it is hollowing out. Wagon tracks crossing fields that fail each season. Drought can change harvests, but quotas do not. Carved into tablets and enforced with boots, seals, and fear everywhere now. When people become labor, they fight to become human again, lifting the fallen and gritting teeth in silence, together still. Wealth doesn't vanish. It changes hands, doors, and guards, leaving narrow alleys crowded and unseen in daylight too often now. In the dark, an old name is spoken again. Sumer, carried like a secret emblem after Akkad's tightening grip spreads. Even writing splits, Sumer's tradition, Akkad's discipline, two scripts on one table, one hand hesitating between duty and memory tonight. Some see land to grow, others see land to control, measuring progress instead of listening to hunger outside their walls. As water retreats, life retreats from peace. Steps grow longer, jars lighter, tempers sharper, under dry heat each passing day. The empire believes everything can be sealed, even the future, with a rolling cylinder and a final press in clay. When the father leaves the field leaves the family. Weeds rising where children once played and waited alone. The sky takes no side. It only enforces its law. Heat warping horizons and dust swallowing the sun at noon. When granaries are full and bellies are not, silence becomes a weapon, held behind clenched jaws and eyes watching doors. Sometimes the scribe realizes words can ignite, footsteps quickening past doorways where whispers gather strength and courage in tight corners. When fear rises, empires choose the same answer. Control, adding patrols, seals, and harsher counting in streets at night too. Injustice needs no proclamation. It reveals itself on the road, rich caravans passing thin villages without stopping for water once. The empire calls it labor, the people call it survival. Cracked hands working under a sun that cuts like stone. Faith keeps people upright, until hunger lasts too long, prayers thinning as stomachs tighten and tempers rise in every home. When grain needs guards, trust has died before the harvest, locks multiplying faster than rain ever returns to these streets. A single shortage carved in clay can become a storm in the streets, louder than drums and horns at dusk. Around 2250 BC, on the surface, Akkad still stands tall, as if the sky never changed, while dust gathers quietly. When people stop fearing, empires start fearing for them, meeting steady eyes instead of bowed heads in lines each morning. Some harvests fail, others turn into sentences. Each empty head of grain a verdict carried home in silence at sunset. When memories are sold for a meal, the future is mortgaged, bracelets traded for handfuls of grain in thin sacks. Sometimes the one who knows the law is helpless before truth, watching bargains made with shaking hands in open air. Out of hunger, people grasp a story. Sumer will return, because an old promise can still feed hope for tomorrow. The empire can't cure drought, it only guards desperation, adding soldiers to doors and fear to streets in broad daylight. Then the wind arrives, like an army that needs no king, a wall of dust marching toward roofs from afar. In the storm, titles vanish, only people and sand remain, eyes burning, mouths covered, breath stolen by each hard gust. Sand doesn't overthrow with swords, it overthrows with time, burying roads, seals, and pride alike under drift after drift daily. When the sky closes, people start opening other doors, passing unlit torches, testing locks, learning routes in silence, together, now. Some will have to choose, right for the empire, or right for truth. standing between archive doors and crowds outside. By about 2154 BC, when the water disappears, everything else begins to fall. Cities shrinking under white sun at once. Rain comes in the wrong season, darkness drops, wind lashes sideways, and farmers run as water strikes dry fields. Raindrops hammer cracked soil and kick up thin muddy dust. The ground does not drink, it only flinches. The rain returns not as mercy, but as punishment, arriving with force, then leaving without giving anything back. After the storm, seedlings stay flattened, thin mud slips through furrows, roots lift, and seeds float loose. The soil takes water but cannot hold it, like people who have run out of trust after too many false returns. Sunlight snaps back like fire. A mother pulls a child into a narrow shade, while sweat vanishes too quickly. Then the sun returns not as light, but as a fire that will not end, burning breath, skin, and patience. A canal becomes a smear of mud, hands scoop and find only sludge, and water leaks between fingers like a broken promise. When canals go silent, entire cities must relearn how to breathe, because every routine depended on that flow. From above, the great river sits low, long mudbanks show, boats tilt and strand, birds skim searching for water. The river is still there, but its strength has withdrawn, leaving distance where life used to be carried. People dig the canal deeper. A shovel hits hard earth and sparks dust. Palms blister as the ground resists. They dig deeper, because life has fallen deeper, and survival now sits below the level of old days. Tax collectors still arrive, soldiers stand firm, villagers line up, and thin grain rattles into a measure. The sky can change, but the tax hand does not, reaching the same way even when bowls are empty. A last small sack is offered with trembling hands. Stitches split, and a few grains roll away, unnoticed. There are last drops people are still forced to give away, even when those drops are the line to morning. A scribe looks up and sees children behind the woman. Guilt flickers, then is pressed flat under discipline. Sometimes writing weighs more than stone, because it carves into lives and makes loss feel official. Heat shimmers on the horizon. A thin dust storm stretches like smoke, sun dimmed into a bronze coin. No war is needed. Nature knows how to lay siege, tightening the air until movement feels costly. Migration begins. Families tie bundles, lift clay pots, and pack a whole life into one knot. When land cannot feed people, people must learn to leave land behind. Even when leaving breaks identity, they follow a rumor south. Water still remembers its way there, and hope clings to that sentence. A long line moves across pale ground. Faces crack with thirst, yet eyes stay forward, step after step. At the southern gate, refugees crush together. Guards control the flow, hands extend bowls, and mercy hesitates. When entire lands move, cities become funnels of despair, narrowing lives into one pressured opening. A woman stumbles from exhaustion. A man catches her and holds the child closer, dust like salt on skin. Sometimes, love is simply refusing to let each other fall, because falling here can mean never rising. From temple steps, a priestess watches an endless line. Her face is heavy, not panicked, weighed by scale. They pray for water, but what they need most is a new order that can hold people together. A wall of dust follows the migrants. The sky turns yellow, and human figures look small against a moving world. Storms do not only come from clouds, they come from what was neglected, returning as consequences. At the gate, a scribe records refugees. Soldiers rush them onward, and numbers climb like flood without water. When water vanishes, numbers rise, and that is what makes empires tremble, because crowds expose weakness. Officials tighten instead of sharing. Granary ropes are sealed harder, guards doubled. New clay pressed firm, facing hunger, the empire does not share. It tightens, believing pressure can replace generosity. Lines form for rations. A ladle drops too little into bowls, and disappointment spreads without shouting. Rations become the thin thread between life and death, a daily measure of how close the edge is. A man trades labor for a small bucket. Water sloshes barely, reflecting a tired face with no spare strength. When water becomes a commodity, people are priced as well, reduced to what they can carry and endure. Illness spreads from thirst and dirt. A mother wipes a child with a damp cloth that holds almost nothing. Not swords, thirst and filth take more lives, quietly stealing what armies cannot reach. A priestess offers incense by a canal. She listens to wind more than prayer, because answers do not fall. They beg for rain, and the sky answers with wind, a reply that moves everywhere and nourishes nowhere. Night turns strangely cold. Breath becomes smoke. Hands rub together near a small fire under sharp stars. Days burn. Nights freeze. The land has lost its rhythm, and people lose theirs with it. A scribe hears whispered rumors in the records room. He looks at canal maps and stops his pen mid-mark. When rumors replace food, fear becomes the new currency, traded faster than grain and harder to store. Quotas still press down. Measures are demanded. Heads bow. An old man swallows anger behind red eyes. The empire calls it order. The people call it legalized theft, because survival is being invoiced. A man passes sealed granary doors and thick guards. His hand touches his empty stomach, then pulls away. When granaries lock, hope locks with them, and the streets begin to learn new kinds of anger. Near a water point, voices rise and bodies jostle. A mother retreats, holding her child tighter. When water is scarce, people collide like stones in a dry stream, scraping trust into smaller pieces. From above, fields lie dead in patches, canals are scars, and one stalk bends, then breaks in wind. The harvest does not just fail, it vanishes from the year's promise, erasing the idea of normal. A priestess watches disputes over shelter and water. Her eyes hurt, holding back panic as unity cracks. When survival becomes the goal, unity dies first, because everyone counts their own breath. A scribe begins a private note on clay. He hides it quickly, glancing at the doorway. Some truths cannot be written for the state, only for the future. When speaking will be safer. An official receives a shortage report. Grip tightens on the seal, face hardening because fear is rising. When granaries thin out, power begins to shake, even if it denies it and demands more control. Labor crews repair canal banks. Mud is packed. A thin trickle appears, then stops, as if refusing. They mend the channel, but they cannot mend the sky. And the sky is the one deciding now. Storm clouds burst violently, then vanish. Sunlight floods back, muddy water rushes, carries trash, then dries fast. Everything turns erratic, like the Empire's fate, switching from flood to scorch without warning. Inside a tent, a bowl is empty. A mother scrapes the bottom with a finger, searching for yesterday. Hunger is not only lack of food, it is the memory of enough, haunting every empty vessel. A man looks south at the road and the moving line. He tightens a bundle strap with wordless resolve. They are not fleeing. They are chasing a place where water still lives, because water is the map now. The gate overloads and opens and shuts. A scribe stamps and counts faster, hands tiring as bodies pass. As people flood in, the state can only count, because counting feels safer than understanding. Near the granary, a priestess hears the growing noise. Unlit torches wait, and her beads tighten again. When trust fractures, one spark is enough, because pressure has been building longer than anyone admits. An official signals to seal the granary. Doors slam, locks bite, and fresh clay is pressed tight. In drought, every imperial decision leads to the lock, as if wood and clay can stop hunger. From above, the land turns pale. Canals and fields look like dead veins, dust drifting without end. This is no longer a bad season. It is a world changing, and people are forced to change with it. On a tablet, the sign for shortage repeats line after line. A scribe sits still, hearing collapse inside. When one word repeats enough, it becomes a prophecy, because repetition is how disaster announces itself. The family walks within the migration stream, hands locked, eyes forward, survival reduced to continuing. There are stretches where survival is simply continuing, one step after another, without promises. A rare trickle runs in a ditch. People cup it quickly, water trembling like glass in the palm. A drop can save a day, but not an empire, because empires bleed from every other wound too. A priestess passes hungry children and offers what little she can. Their eyes look straight, empty, silent. When children go silent from hunger, it is the most terrifying sound, heavier than any shout. Another crowd gathers before the granary, closer than before. A hand tests the door, feeling its limits. When water runs out, people seek something else to live, and the granary becomes the answer. Late 22nd century BC. Drought and disorder tighten together. The next storm rises from streets, not clouds. A crowd thickens before the granary, torches unlit. Hunger gathers bodies until it becomes larger than fear. Faces press close, sweat and dust mixing. Every pair of eyes carries the same question, fixed on the wooden door. A mother holds her child and backs to the wall. Her hand shields small ears, while her gaze never leaves the lock. In a crowd, a mother's instinct becomes the last shield, the final barrier between a child and the crush. A priestess moves between shoulders, trying to hold order with eyes and open palms. Her beads tighten, silent. Faith is no longer enough to keep the crowd still, when empty stomachs start speaking louder than prayers. A hand slams the granary door. The bolt groans and the wood trembles, and the street inhales sharply. One sound can begin an age, because a city can break from a single note when tension is already loaded. From above, the district looks packed and dim. Torches flicker like insects under dust, and silence pulses. The whole city holds its breath, as if it knows something is about to break, and cannot unlearn it. A scribe is pulled into the scene with tablets and soldiers. He comes to count, but must witness. His eyes lift, and catch a mother and child in the press. Duty wavers for a moment, then steadies again. An official steps forward with a command tablet. A seal swings, gaze cold, with one thin thread of fear. Empires always believe they can command hunger, as if empty bellies obey the same laws as paper. Soldiers push the crowd back. The crowd bends, then surges forward again, shoulder to shoulder, breath to breath. When people have nothing left to lose, they become a wall, and walls do not negotiate. A man leaves the edge and steps into the front, jaw clenched, eyes no longer looking away. An ordinary man steps into a moment that is no longer ordinary, because survival has changed the rules. A torch flares to life, its light shakes across faces, and a mother retreats deeper with her child. Fire is not only for light, it is a signal of desperation, a warning that patience is running out. Wind pulls smoke sideways across the granary front. The sky and dust share the same dark color. The wind drags smoke through streets, like bad news, spreading faster than calm, settling into every doorway. Wooden bars pry at the door. The bolt snaps, splinters fall, and the crowd's breathing turns sharp. The first lock breaks, and with it, an old vow breaks free. The promise that rules would protect life. The door opens, and sacks appear. People rush in, not for wealth, but for the idea of living. Grain pours, like pale rain, onto stone. In that sound, the crowd hears life returning for one night. A mother receives a small sack and presses it to her chest. A palmful can still save a night. Some things fit in a palm, yet they can save a night, because hunger measures time in hours. A scribe writes while the ground shakes, his marks skew, and history is recorded in a rushed hand. History is not always written in palaces. Sometimes it is written on granary floors, under dust and feet. Horns sound, soldiers run, shields form lines. The empire calls security like a god asked to return. When order is challenged, the empire calls security like a protective god, because it fears the crowd. Dust rolls over the street and softens every footprint. Smoke thins across rooftops, hiding the sun. Dust erases footprints, but it cannot erase the cause, because hunger remains after the wind moves on. Soldiers push to split the crowd. People scatter without strikes. Only pressure, only the urge to escape. The empire does not negotiate with hunger. It only pushes, and pushing makes the city remember. A man turns between the open granary and a wall of shields. He grips family and pulls them out. In chaos, family becomes the only exit, the one path that still makes sense when streets do not. A priestess lifts an elderly person from the ground and guides them into an alley, steady and firm. Some build empires with ledgers. Others hold society with compassion when law begins to harden. A scribe is forced close to officials and ordered to report. His reed pen pauses in silent refusal. The scribe becomes a mirror, reflecting only what the empire wants to see, even when truth is nearby. A seal is pressed onto a door as crime. Ropes tighten, and distant figures are led away in shadow. When hunger is called a crime, truth is pushed out of law, and fear becomes policy. Night turns red, with torches along the walls. Running shadows multiply, and rest becomes impossible. Night is no longer rest. Night becomes a bulletin of fear, delivered by footsteps and flame. A family hides in a dark alley, clutching a small sack. Their breathing is held, their eyes watch cracks. Their wealth is now a small sack and a very large silence. Because speaking can cost more than grain. An official raises a command tablet to tighten control. The gaze sweeps the crowd without softness. The empire answers unrest the same way. More law, more soldiers, more weight on the same backs. Granary doors close again with doubled guards. Fresh seals stack over old seals, thick as fear. They believe thicker locks stop hunger. But hunger passes through walls, through rules, through nights. A scribe stares at the seal and cannot breathe. Every seal pressed down becomes a reason to rise. While they fight over grain, the water keeps retreating coldly as channels thin and boats sit still. A second crowd gathers, quieter and harder. A small Sumer symbol passes hand to hand without words. Pushed back once does not mean extinguished, because heat remains under ash, waiting for air. A priestess watches faces changing and understands what is coming. Worry and resolve settle in her eyes. A revival does not begin with a throne. It begins in the eyes, when fear turns into decision. A man guides family and others through narrow alleys, avoiding patrols. Ordinary people learn to lead. In dark hours, ordinary people become guides, because light is scarce, and choices must be quick. A scribe wraps a small tablet and hides it in a wall. He exhales as if committing treason. Some records are not for today, but for Judgment Day, when truth can be read without punishment. Orders point at people, and soldiers separate a group. Rope is lifted and disappears beyond the frame. The empire calls it stability, but stability by fear is only temporary silence before pressure returns. Smoke drifts past stone symbols of power. Cracks on the statue show clearer under torchlight. Even symbols begin to crack before walls ever fall, because belief weakens before stone does. A mother strokes a sleeping child, eyes red but dry. Her hand grips the grain sack like life. Tonight, they survive. Tomorrow is the question nobody dares to ask, because answers feel dangerous. A man looks back at the guarded granary, torchlight mirrored in his eyes. Fear becomes decision. When people are pushed to the wall, they stare straight at the lock, and the lock starts to tremble. A priestess walks through the crowd, touching shoulders, saying nothing. Her beads fall still like a vow. Sometimes one person standing firm lets others dare to move, because courage spreads by presence. In ledgers they call it unrest. In life, it is hunger, loud enough to change a city's shape. After the crackdown, streets are empty. Broken pottery and burnt torch ash lie where voices were. After the noise, the city leaves unresolved tension behind. A quiet that waits to flare again. Taxes rise to cover losses. Another line is carved, and a tired hand shakes very slightly. Each time the empire loses control, it compensates by taking more, until taking becomes habit. A family packs to leave again under a cold dawn. Knots tighten. A child's forehead is kissed quickly. When a place cannot protect its people, people must save themselves, even if leaving breaks the heart. A priestess watches them go and senses worse approaching. Riots were a symptom, not the true collapse. Beyond the city, Zagros Mountains darken under cloud. Shadowed movement appears on slopes far away. When the center weakens, the frontier begins to move, and the horizon starts carrying the storm. A report arrives of border harassment. An official's hand tightens on the seal. Fear, finally real. An empire can suppress its own people, but not the tide of history, which returns like wind. Wind shifts across dry plains and pulls dust south. The sun sets red, and distant drums feel closer. From here, the storm is not only in streets, it is on the horizon, moving toward everything. Bad news arrives before any army. The frontier cracks, and the center hears the break before seeing an enemy. Officials strike seals and point at clay maps, trying to patch with orders what drought and hunger already rotted. Soldiers file out through dust at the gate, a long fading line, while the scribe counts, calm and late. No cheers follow them. Families hold children tighter, praying only for one mercy, that they do not lose more. In the Zagros highlands, cold stone roads climb under low cloud, and hungry eyes look down like granaries. At a border fort, guards stand thin and exhausted. One cup of water trembles in a hand, not enough. Night brings moving fires on the slope, not stars but signals. A watchman's eyes widen, grip tightening in fear. Shadowed raiders surge through smoke and dust. The garrison folds inward because the gate was weakened long before. A cloth flag drops into dirt and is trampled. Sometimes one banner falling is enough to change a whole region. The scribe arrives after the fire. He lifts a scorched tablet shard, watching data turn to ash and silence. Supply roads lie empty. A caravan cart is tipped. Torn sacks spill, and wind erases tracks until direction disappears. An official reads the loss and freezes. What empires fear most is not enemies, but bad news that never stops. New taxes are sealed to feed the army. To fight outsiders, they take more from those already inside the walls. In the market, rumors run faster than marching feet. Fear spreads, breaks trust, and pushes families toward leaving. From temple steps, faith watches, patrols thicken, and people run. When sky is harsh and humans cruel, burdens double. A thin dust storm coats roofs, turning light bronze and dim. The city is blanketed like an old promise. With the frontier torn, raiders strike the outer granary. Smoke rises, citizens scatter, and defenders cannot form lines. A family runs through alleys with a child held close. They fled once for water. Now they flee fire. The scribe watches sacks dragged away. He touches a tablet as if words could hold reality in place. Barricades rise in streets under hard orders. Yet the greatest barrier is hunger, standing taller than any timber. A jar shatters on dry ground. Water spilling away. One spill can feel like the ending of an old order. The river runs low like an open wound. Canals branch like dry veins. Boats sit still, and the wind mourns. In makeshift shelters, elders sit silent, and children cough. Hearts must widen as the state shrinks, or cold wins. A small record is wrapped and hidden in mud brick. When empires fall, memory is what can remain standing. Soldiers slip away from a side gate, leaving only dust on footprints. Retreat needs no proclamation, only emptiness. An official gestures and repeats himself, but eyes turn away. When no one listens, orders become nothing but wind. Under thin torches, a family exits through a small gate at night, leaving to live long enough to remember. The night road is empty, moonlight dulled by dust. Some migrations have no destination, only escape from collapse. News spreads that Akkad cannot protect. Panic turns to anger, because an empire without shelter loses its reason. On tablets, signs for broken, lost, delayed, repeat until they feel final. Repetition becomes verdict, not information anymore. The priestess looks south toward surviving Sumer cities. When one center falls, others can rise if will remains. In a rushed courtyard rite, torches tremble. They try to rebuild ceremony, like walls made of smoke and fear. Far on the horizon, thin smoke and distant fire glow. No close view is needed to know an era fades. A cylinder seal drops into mud and stops. Power can fall softly, yet its echo lasts inside everyone. The scribe gathers key tablets under cloth. When empires vanish, writers choose whether to serve power or save memory. Hunger turns symbols into targets. A small statue tilts under ropes, stone cracks, and blame finds the nearest shape. The priestess pulls people into an alley, away from the surge. In collapse, the hardest task is not hating. Administrative courtyards grow empty, patrols thin, doors hang half-closed. Collapse is not a crash, but missing order everywhere. People leave in a quiet line, carrying pots and bundles. When citizens depart, the city becomes only a shell. A storehouse door opens onto dust and nothing. When granaries empty, every imperial argument empties with them too. The scribe walks out, with tablets hidden under clothing. He looks back once, eyes hurt, mind awake still. A larger migration flows south. A family blends into it, hands linked, a child asleep. Water sloshing faintly. The southern light softens, canals still live. Temple roofs appear in haze, and old city-states wait for time. By a surviving canal, a small symbol is placed. When empires fade, people return to identity that outlasts power. Late 22nd century BC. North lies under smoke. South glints with water. Akkad falls to sky and its own machine. At the southern gateway, refugees reach a canal, still running. Hands touch water, and hope returns to mouths. A priestess walks among the displaced, resting a hand on shoulders. Her beads fall still, promising care without speech. Around a small fire, whispers spread. Someone draws the Sumer sign in dust, and one name rises in Uruk. Around 2112 BC, a leader stands high before the temple. Weary faces gather, wanting to believe together again. While northern cities fade, the southern canals still breathe. Boats glide slowly, birds fly low, and Uruk keeps a heartbeat. On dusty roads, the invaders withdraw, gates open, and victory feels like unity, not brute force, returning step by step. At sunrise behind the shrine, the priestess exhales. Dawn rises not only in sky, but inside people too. Hands from city-states meet on clay. A Sumer seal rolls softly, not to lock people, but to bind a vow. Then the torchbearer is gone, banners lower, drums die out, and hope that just ignited loses its keeper. A courtyard stands empty, embers cooling. Every power vacuum calls a new name, and the road points toward Ur. Around 2110 BC, a steady figure steps from Ur's gate. He does not promise, he measures pain and builds. People lay a bundle of dry grain before him. True power begins when burdens are placed, and responsibility is accepted. A senior scribe is summoned to a clean new office. The reed pen rests, steady now, finding purpose again. The canal project begins. Wet mud yields under shovels, and people dig not only for water, but for a future. Food is organized with gentle oversight. Bowls are leveled, shares made fair, and fear loosens in quiet faces. Water returns to the new channel, shining. When it meets the soil, small ripples beat like a heart. In a clay classroom, students learn again. Memory is taught anew. One careful mark, one steadier hand each day. Order is tested with mercy. Seals are pressed lightly, and rules become a frame that holds people up. On the training ground, shields and low spears move in rhythm. This army aims for peace long enough to heal. Public steps meet the canal. Small bridges rise. Hope becomes real when it takes shape, and water sounds clear. A thin green returns across the fields. One patch of life can change how people stand, and how they breathe. At Ur's temple court, incense is scattered, and drums slow. Power returns, invited this time to serve again. The coronation holds no glitter, only weight. A new king is measured not in gold, but in repairs. In the crowd, trust returns quietly. People do not need splendor. They need a tomorrow that feels believable. The law tablets are carved with straight lines. Law is born to end revenge and cool the blood. A priestess seals the law with ceremony. When law has a soul, it bridges the strong and weak. Under warm sun, fresh clay tablets dry. Some words carved in clay outlive dynasties, and outlive grief too. The law is displayed in public. The poor finally see a place for themselves, and elders breathe easier. The scribal school grows louder with practice. Hands learn the correct signs, and a future is trained here. Granaries run with visible fairness. Measures align. Grain falls evenly, and stability no longer needs fear to stand. The king walks the new canal. Fingers touch water, then mud, as if checking the kingdom's pulse today. Dawn spreads gold along the canal network. A living waterway gives a kingdom reason to exist and to hope. Markets wake again. A quick smile appears, small but true, as prosperity returns like breathing after sickness slowly. Soldiers patrol the canal, guarding workers. Strength placed correctly becomes shelter, not conquest, and the dust stays calm. Administration changes its skin. Sumer returns, yet it survives by learning from Akkad and writing with both hands. The priestess watches the blended work and nods. A renaissance is rising with what remains, not what was pure. Foundations are leveled for a future ziggurat. Stakes, brick, and rope sketch, a shadow of what will rise. Standard weights are announced. When measures are fair, society fights less for its share, and trust grows again. Seeds scatter into wet soil. After years of losing, planting becomes the bravest act, and the mud holds them. A scribe writes the sign for harvest. Some words return so late that smiles feel unfamiliar at first. By the canal, people offer flowers and thanks. They do not celebrate war. They celebrate surviving to rebuild. The city brightens, smoke rises straighter, wind gentler, and the new order appears in daily life, returning quietly. The king looks over canals and fields. He knows rebuilding is easier than holding, and the sky may change. Schools, granaries, patrols, and flowing water move in one breath. Ur III does not just revive Sumer today. From ashes, around 2100 BC, a new order rises with law to hold it together, at dawn over canals. Late Ur III, around 2100 BC. Canals run, boats pass, markets hum, and granaries open with steady, even hands. Grain pours into a standard measure, seals set neatly in place, as if order itself were a craft. Ur III runs like a healthy body, water as blood, writing as memory, and work as breath. In the records room, tablets are sorted by district and season, and the stylus keeps a calm, even tempo. Order is no longer fear. Order becomes a daily rhythm, shared by many hands, learned like a song. In the granary, measures are level and fair. When systems are clear, people stop living on suspicion. A full bowl meets the mark, and relief passes quietly from giver to receiver, without needing any words. From above, the canal network spreads like veins across fields, and water moves as if guided by patience. It is not magic, not luck, just water, led to the right places. Again and again, with care, work crews raise embankments. Those who once lost everything become the ones who keep the system from losing again. A hand measures height with rope and knot, confident now, skilled through memory of past hunger. At the road station, messages change hands fast. News runs quicker than storms can gather. Ur III stitches the land with roads and writing, sewing a torn cloth back together, one report at a time. A priestess moves between granary and temple, watching system and faith walk side by side. A hand rests on a law tablet by the altar, as if to nail mercy into the world. Law keeps people from chaos. Faith keeps people from cruelty. When the work grows hard, the ziggurat rises, and the whole city is pulled into it, brick by brick, water by water, breath by breath. Mud bricks stack, wet clay seals the seams, and labor finds a drumbeat in repetition. The ziggurat is not only a temple, it proves the state can make a city lift one weight together. As the monument climbs higher, its shadow lengthens over streets, like a clock that measures power. People look like ants on the slope, and the wind carries the distant sound of work without end. As a monument rises, it casts a shadow, and a shadow changes how people stand and speak. Inside, the records room swells. More tablets, more shifts, longer days, more eyes trained on numbers. The larger the system grows, the more writing it demands, and the more people it asks to bend. A corvée notice reaches a household. A small clay slip sits heavy, even before the work begins. Monuments need hands, and hands are not always asked, even when the city calls it duty. One person works the canal by day, the temple site by evening, and the shoulders carry two worlds. Prosperity has a price, and the price often rests on ordinary backs, paid slowly in fatigue. The king surveys the rising structure, pride and pressure held together behind a steady gaze. A throne is not allowed to tire, because an entire machine leans on it, expecting motion without pause. Granaries are full, yet doors are thick. Guards stand close, and safety begins to resemble control. Full granaries mean peace, until locks become habit, and habit becomes a quiet kind of fear. Caravans bring taxes inward. Grain is measured, confirmed, and absorbed into the center's growing certainty. Taxes feed the system, and the system feeds stability, as long as the balance can hold. Then targets rise again. What was enough becomes not enough, with one added line that feels like stone. The machine does not know how to stop. It only knows how to grow, and to demand more growth. People line up for labor assignments. Faces show endurance, not revolt, but tiredness that deepens. No riot appears. Only fatigue accumulating like silt at the bottom of a canal, season after season. A small ritual is offered at the site. Incense lifts, pulled sideways by wind that will not settle. They offer to the gods, but what they need is balance between building and living. Before breath runs out, the ziggurat becomes a man-made mountain, taller than rooftops, claiming the horizon with silent weight. A mountain built by humans always demands humans keep building, even when bodies ask for rest. The founder walks past and fades from view, and the work continues as if it no longer needs a face. When the founder steps away, what remains is the machine and its rhythm. Steady, hungry, unblinking. Senior scribes train the young, checking errors. One wrong mark can ruin a season for a village. So they become strict, because precision is mercy in disguise, and mistakes are paid in hunger. A worker begs for rest with a gesture. The overseer refuses. The worker lowers the head and continues. Within prosperity, people begin losing the smallest thing. Their own time, their own breath, their own mornings. At home, rough cloth wraps cracked hands. A quiet tenderness sits beside a distant construction sound. There is no war, yet cracks still form, quietly, in skin, in spirit, in trust, that must endure. Night falls, but the city stays lit. Records rooms glow, work fires burn, and Ur III does not sleep. A strong state often stays awake longer than its people, asking daylight from night, and labor from bones. At checkpoints, sacks are inspected, new seals tighten, and merchants wait, while patience is measured too. Control preserves stability, but it tightens the breath of freedom, until people speak with their eyes. Workers exchange looks of complaint, and then keep lifting bricks, proud and aching at the same time. They are proud to build, and they ache because building never ends, even when the body begs. A small shortfall is stamped with penalty. The mark is clean, correct, and cold against living need. The fairness of law can become the blade of procedure, when rules forget the faces they cut. A priestess watches full granaries and exhausted workers, and worry returns, tightening like beads in a fist. If the system forgets people, it will repeat Akkad's fate, remembered from the late 2,200 seconds BC. A new season comes. Water still flows, but the sky shifts, and light turns strange over green fields. Nature signs no treaty. It only changes its mind, and humans discover they are not in control. A report notes water slightly lower. A finger pauses on the sign for shortage, and memory wakes. A small sign is enough to awaken those who survived drought. because the past lives in the body. A worker checks canal banks and finds fresh cracks. A fingertip touches the split like touching the past. They built systems to defeat drought, but drought always returns to test them, again and again. A household hides a little grain in a jar. The lid clicks shut, a small sound of fear. Those who starved never fully trust enough. Even when granaries look full and markets look bright, a messenger arrives with distant unrest. The seal is pressed harder than usual, as if to force order. When distant roads carry bad news, the center turns cold, and the city listens for what comes next. The ziggurat nears completion. At the peak, Ur III looks strongest, and also heaviest. Around 2050 BC, Ur III's peak appears, and beneath it lies its own weight, waiting to be carried by someone. A great festival gathers crowds, drums, incense, and torchlight. Yet many faces show quiet exhaustion. They stand before a marvel and wonder how long they can endure, while the city asks for more. Scribes record offerings. Tablets pile high like walls. Eyes redden, but the stylus does not stop. Prosperity creates paperwork, and paperwork over time consumes prosperity, turning life into endless counting. A priestess signals for slowing down. An official looks away, unwilling to reduce targets or demands. Not everyone dares to slow down when the machine is used to speed, and fear punishes hesitation. On the worksite, someone collapses from strain. Others lift them. A few drops of water arrive in time. Empires measure monuments. Humans measure breath. And breath is the first truth that runs out. A hot wind returns over fields, and the canal surface trembles, water slightly lower than before. A hot wind can carry the memory of dark years, and make the skin remember what it feared. A new order raises reserve taxes. The stylus moves slowly, as if the hand does not want to write. When fear returns, the state's first reflex is to take more, even from those already tired. People complain in low, unclear words. A glance falls on stored grain, and survival becomes private again. Prosperity does not vanish at once. It withdraws slowly like water, leaving a dry taste in the mouth. Under the ziggurat steps, a worker looks upward and asks, without speaking, what the building cost. Sometimes people ask, is this monument faith, or a burden carried longer than a life can carry? A priestess reads the sky. Dark clouds gather far off, and incense bends harder under the wind. The sky speaks no words, but it always warns, and warning arrives before understanding. Black clouds sit on the horizon. Light turns colder, and a thin line of dust cuts the distance. Even at the peak, the descent becomes visible, like a shadow that starts to move. Tablets marked Reserve are bundled by region and sealed. The rope tightens like an old memory. A system that once saved them now prepares to save itself, even if people must pay. Another labor order arrives. A hand grips the clay slip, knuckles pale, holding back anger. Each new order is another brick placed on the shoulders, and the shoulders learn to carry silence. A mother teaches a child simple signs in dirt, proud of learning, afraid of the future weight. They save their child from hunger, but cannot be sure they can save them from the burden. A priestess stands before thick granary locks, and remembers Akkad, when control became a doorway to ruin. Full granaries were salvation, but thick locks once marked the beginning of collapse. One habit at a time. Water drops a little, targets rise, labor stretches, clouds darken, and small cracks learn how to spread. Ur III still stands, but cracks have begun learning how to spread, quietly, patiently, without mercy. The finished ziggurat throws its shadow under a changing sky, and the wind snaps cold at the height. Their peak touches the sky, and the sky will decide how long they endure, as the light turns away. Late Ur III, around 2050 BC, the word shortage returns, and old memories return with it, sharp and heavy. They call it management. In the long line at the granary, people hear fear, settling quietly into their breathing. The canal runs low, almost shy. The bank splits open, and drought pushes back against every careful human plan. Sun burns the fields, then cold wind snaps through cloth. Nature changes pace, and everything beneath it changes too. A sealed message arrives from the border. When shadows stir on the frontier, the center begins to shake inside stone. New targets are handed out in offices. Fear rises, and the system tightens its grip. Again and again. Portions shrink, measured with care. No one needs to shout. The bowl is simply lighter in the hand. Extra labor is ordered and recorded. When things run short, the first thing taken is strength. The ziggurat stands tall, unmoving. Below it, the streets slow, and the city starts to gasp for air. Numbers stop matching across tablets. A great machine can drift off course for months before anyone admits it. A far village cannot deliver enough grain. Punishment cannot make food. It only makes resentment and quiet hatred. Before the temple, calm hands rise to steady the crowd. When land dries, hearts dry too, slowly. Fields are left behind in silence. A kingdom loses farmland before it loses walls, gates, and pride. Boats stick in mud along the canal. When boats cannot move, trade cannot breathe, and markets thin, the road station empties day by day. When news slows, wrong decisions multiply, and help arrives late. Thin bread for a crying child. An empire may endure one harsh season, but a child cannot. A true record is hidden under other tablets. When truth turns dangerous, writing must be saved, quietly. Gates close, while daylight still remains. An early bolt means a city has begun fearing its own shadow. Smoke marks the horizon, like a warning. War arrives first, as a stain in the air. A post goes silent, beyond the roads. The worst thing is not bad news, but no news. Seals strike fast in the court chambers. Panic makes orders the way fire makes smoke, relentless and blind. Builders are called to defend. Prosperity once asked for work, but now it asks for holding ground. The temple opens its doors to families. When the state pulls back, the temple becomes a roof. Wind turns, and dust thickens in streets. When the sky goes blind, people follow, half seeing. A horn sounds far away, carried on wind. The enemy comes before anyone dares to name it. Clay tablets are carried to safety through corridors. When a city shakes, memory is saved first. In a fleeing crowd, the hardest act is letting go. Even for one moment, even for one heartbeat. People stand on the wall in silence. They once ran to live, now they stand for others. Dust rolls on the horizon like a living tide. Faces are unclear, yet the city trembles anyway. Barriers rise inside narrow streets. When outer walls are tested, inner walls appear, quickly and quietly. Grain moves toward the center under guard. In crisis, everyone guards a share, and society cracks. After Akkad's collapse, around 2150 BC, Ur learned control, and sometimes learned the lesson too well. Incense burns and bends in the wind. Prayer is not for victory now, only for what remains. Torches shake on the walls through the night. This night does not sleep. This night watches. Stones fall from tired masonry, scattering dust. Walls grow weary, and history changes hands without mercy. A retreat is signaled, not as defeat, but survival. Good leaders choose living routes over beautiful deaths. People run toward the temple, drawn by bells and breath. In war, family becomes a compass. Law and memory are buried in brick and mud. When walls can fall, essentials must not. Small fires appear in the distance, far and scattered. Fire need not spread to break the city's rhythm. Inner gates close again with heavy timber. When a city contracts, it becomes a trap for its own. Water is shared drop by drop in the dark. At the end, mercy is measured in water. A low tremor passes through stone and bone. Some sounds can freeze you without any sight. A defender returns, covered in dust, eyes wide. No victory, only truth. The walls are not enough. In the temple, a family holds tight and shaking. In collapse, what remains is who you refuse to lose. The powerful withdraw into shadows, with bundles and seals. When the top leaves, the bottom knows. The writing room goes quiet, lamp by lamp. When writing stops, the state stops, and order thins. The temple is bolted shut against the street. The same bolt can oppress, or it can shelter. Ur falls like a wave, not a lightning strike. It passes through, and leaves silence behind it. After Ur falls, around 2004 BC, the morning is cold. The deepest wound is quiet. Outside, the world looks changed in one night. No clear faces, only new hands on everything. A hidden law tablet returns to light in dusty hands. The kingdom is gone, but words remain. Memory is handed forward like inheritance, warm against the palms. Legacy is what people can carry. The ziggurat still stands over dust and smoke. The dynasty is gone. Stone outlasts crowns. People leave Ur in silence, like leaving a burning home, carrying what can still be saved. Early 2nd millennium BCE, Sumer loses rule, but its learned ways live on elsewhere, in new tongues. A cloth bag is tied tight against the wind. Some things cannot save a city, but can save people. A new horizon opens ahead, pale and steady. An era ends when balance is forgotten. Faith cannot save a dynasty from ending, but it can save a journey, one step at a time. Empires die, and cities change hands. The blueprint of power remains in writing, carried onward. Sumer loses its crown, not its voice. It endures in law, in writing, and in rebuilding after collapse.